Hello everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine. I, Priyanka Lala, welcome you all to my history class. I want you all to identify this picture. You can pause the video and write down the answer in your notebook. Very well done. You all might have guessed it correctly. This picture is about the partition of India and Pakistan. Before India was independent, the Britishers ruled India, and that period was known as the British rule in India. The British rule was the rule by the British Crown primarily on the Indian subcontinent from 1858 to 1947. As we all know, the Britishers ruled India for almost 200 years. And India gained independence on 15th August 1947. Isn't it? Before we go ahead, I have a very interesting video for you all. Please observe this video.
The departure of the first contingent of British troops from the new Dominion of India was an historic event. The Governor-General, Lord Mountbatten, was on Ballard Pier, Bombay, and here he inspected guards of honour from the 3 Indian services, mounted as a tribute to the work of the British services in India. Lord Mountbatten then addressed men of the 2nd Battalion Royal Norfolks and RAF personnel, speaking, as he remarked, in 3 different capacities: as the Constitutional Governor-General, as the ex-Viceroy, and as the former Supremo of Southeast Asia Command. After the speech, the men embarked on the Georgic. Lord Mountbatten himself went aboard for last farewells to the men and their families. He remains as Governor-General at the invitation of the Indians themselves, a fine testimony to the straightforward manner in which he's carried out his difficult job. As Lord Mountbatten said, with the departure of the British forces, the outward and visible sign of British rule in India disappears, and its place is taken by something much more valuable, a really great friendship between the British and the Indians.
Wasn't it a historic moment when the Britishers left India? So when the Britishers left India, we gained our independence, and since independence, we've seen a lot of changes in India. One of them is the Constitution. The Constitution was drafted by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. We all know what a Constitution is, and in our Constitution, we have a few rights and duties that we follow. But other than the Constitution, there were a lot of changes, and today we'll be learning what those changes were. So the topic for today is Changing Life Part 1. As you all have guessed it correctly, the picture is of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution. Dr. Ambedkar brought about a sea change in our traditional mindset. He brought it about through the medium of the Constitution. So we all know what a Constitution is. Constitution is nothing but a book of rules that India follows. According to our Constitution, all Indians are equal before the law, and they cannot be discriminated against on the basis of religion, race, caste, gender, or place of birth. All citizens have the right to freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms, freedom to form associations, freedom to move, to live and settle down anywhere on Indian territory, and to practice any occupation. Indian citizens living anywhere in India enjoy the right to nurture their language, script, and culture. Isn't it correctly said? We citizens have all the right that are stated in the Constitution. We have the right to freedom of speech and expression, freedom to form associations, and to move in our country wherever we wish to. That can be for any occupation that we want to practice. So, Indian citizens living anywhere in India enjoy the right to nurture their language, script, and culture. But did you know this? During the British era, there were 4 kinds of compartments in the railway train: the first, second, inter, and third class. Nominal facilities for the passengers travelling by the third class and negative attitude towards them was almost a symbol of the Indian social hierarchy. In the 1978 budget, Madhu Dandavate put an end to this third class. Later, two trains were started which had no class, namely Sinhagad Express of the Pune-Mumbai road and Gitanjali Express of the Mumbai-Kolkata route. So we are all familiar with the Sinhagad Express as well as the Gitanjali Express. In 1978, Madhu Dandavate put an end to this third class, and then began a series of minor and major changes in the society. Now anyone can go into a restaurant irrespective of their religion, race, caste or gender. Another very significant change during the post-independence period is the right to express opinions against the government. Earlier, there were limits on expressing any opinion against the political rulers. Now, Indian citizens can register their protest against the policies of the government through newspaper, speeches, or other media. Isn't it correct? We all have the right to speak out our mind. We all have that freedom. And it is stated in the Constitution. If we are not happy with anything, we can write down about that. And that can be done through newspaper, speeches, or any other media. Let's take an example. If we are not happy about the food that we ordered, for example, if we've ordered through Zomato, we instantly open the app and write down the review about the food. And the same goes with if we are happy with it, isn't it? So, this was one of the major changes that came after the independence. Now, we'll study some changes that were seen. The first one was the institution of family. During the pre-independence period, the institution of the family was an important identifying feature of Indian society. India was known all over the world as the country of joint families. However, the wave of globalization has now given an impetus to the system of nuclear family. So, joint family and nuclear families are two different terms. Nuclear family is nothing but a couple and their dependent children regarded as a basic social unit. So, some of you who only live with their parents are known as the nuclear family. And joint family is nothing but a family living together with their grandparents, with their uncles and aunts and their cousins and everyone. That is known as the joint family. We'll now see the difference between nuclear family and joint family. Just to get a clear idea about the difference between the nuclear family and the joint family, let us now observe this slide. Nuclear family, as we saw, is a family group consisting of parents and their children. That can be one or more. As you can see in the picture, mom, dad, and the children. And joint family is an extended family typically consisting of three or more generations and their spouses living together as a single household. As you can see in the picture, the grandparents, their children, and their children. So the three generations living together. The second change that we saw was about the social welfare. Now you may ask, what is the meaning of social welfare? Social welfare is nothing but the good or the happiness of the society, happiness of the people living in the society. The objective to establish the welfare state has been incorporated in the Constitution itself. India is the first country in the world to do so. The social welfare programs aim to make opportunities for full-time employment, healthcare, education, and development available to all Indian citizens. Indian society is riddled with large-scale economic, social, educational, and cultural inequalities. However, it is necessary that opportunities for development reach women, children, the differently abled, the scheduled caste and tribes, as well as other minorities. This was the greatest challenge facing the government during the post-independence period. That is why, on 14 June 1964, the Government of India constituted the Ministry of Social Welfare. Under this ministry, various programs were implemented for nutrition and child development, social security and social protection, women's welfare and development. A similar arrangement exists at the state level too. So, as we can read here, social welfare was aimed to give opportunities to people. It can be full time employment, healthcare, education, and everything. And mainly, this was focused on women and children. And on 14 June 1964, the Government of India decided to constitute the Ministry of Social Welfare. And the same arrangement, the same kind of ministry is also exist at the state level too. The third major change that we saw was about the scheduled caste and tribe. According to the 1971 census, 22% people in India belong to scheduled caste and tribes. Laws were enacted so that they got educational scholarships and representations in parliament as well as state assemblies. Some seats are also reserved for them in government services. So, scheduled caste and tribe is a minority in India. As you can see, according to the 1971 census, only 22% of people in India belong to this caste and tribe. So, so what government did is they enacted a law so that they get educational scholarships and representations in parliament as well as state assemblies. As we have studied earlier in the state government chapter, a few kind of seats are reserved for scheduled caste and tribes. Moving ahead, the next change that we saw was of public health. So, public health is nothing but the health system in our country. The Constitution of India states that the primary duty of the government is to raise the people's standard of living, to ensure proper nutrition, and to improve public health. The Ministry of Health and Social Welfare at the center helps the state governments in this regard. To make primary health services as well as medical care available to rural people, the tribal, and the poor was an objective of the sixth 5 year plan. Efforts were made towards helping people maintain good health and by giving recognition to Unani, homeopathy, Ayurveda, and naturopathy in addition to allopathy. So, we all know we are now seeing the world going through the global pandemic. We have a good infrastructure for our health system. We have some good hospitals that are helping us, and we now can see with allopathy, with the normal medicine, we are getting cured with Unani, homeopathy, Ayurveda, and naturopathy. And all this was, the main objective of the sixth 5 year plan. The center helps the state government, as you can see over here. The central government helps the state government with all of this. Progress in the medical field has made the life of Indians relatively free of health concerns, isn't it? What we had earlier, for example, let's take polio. Polio was a big issue back then, but the vaccines have come, and all the children, when they're small, are getting vaccinated against polio. In 1962, the first successful open heart surgery was performed under the leadership of Dr. N. Gopinath at Christian Medical College Hospital at Vellore in Tamil Nadu. Hence, it is no longer necessary to go abroad for such treatment. So, back then, before 1962, if a person is going through some heart condition, they might have to get a surgery done. that was a open heart surgery, and for this they had to visit abroad, like for US. But in 1962, Dr. Gopinath conducted the first successful open heart surgery, and since then it is no longer necessary to go outside India for such kind of surgeries. This is one of the major changes that happened in public health. Similarly, the invention of Jaipur foot has transformed the lives of the disabled in India. Before 1968, if a person lost a leg in an accident, he had to suffer for the rest of his life. In order to remedy the situation, Dr. Pramod Sethi designed and manufactured artificial limbs, noses, and ears with the help of skilled craftsman Ramchandra Sharma. I'll show you what Jaipur foot means. Before that, on the right hand side, you can see the picture. That picture is of Dr. N. Gopinath, who successfully operated the surgery of open heart. This picture that you see is of Dr. Pramod Sethi with the Jaipur foot. Jaipur foot, as you can see in the picture, is an artificial leg. And Dr. Pramod Sethi designed artificial leg, limbs, nose, and ears to help the people who were disabled. And as you can see in the picture, Dr. Ramchandra Sharma had designed, was the skilled craftsman who helped Dr. Pramod Sethi in designing these artificial limbs, noses, and ears. Isn't this the most important invention, the most important change that we see in India in the sector of public health? So, with this, we come to a pause to this chapter. We've seen today some major changes happened in India after the independence. We saw what changes came in the institution of family, in the public health sector, in social welfare. The Ministry of Social Welfare was established, and a few changes in scheduled caste and tribes. Before we end this class, I want you all to answer a few questions. You can pause the video and write down the answers. I'll be reading each question twice. The first question is, who was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution? I repeat, who was the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution? The second question is, who was the craftsman who manufactured artificial limbs, noses, and ears? Who was the craftsman who manufactured artificial limbs, noses, and ears? And what was the objective of the sixth five-year plan? What was the objective of the sixth five-year plan? And another interesting activity I have for you all is, I have a Google form and you have to answer the questions in it. I'll be sharing the link of this Google form in the description box. But we cannot end this class without homework. I want you all to find out the names of a few social welfare programs in India. We've seen what social welfare means, and I want you all to name a few of the programs. With this, we end our class here. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's class, and I hope you complete the homework on time. Thank you everyone.